I suppose you guys at some point must have heard this crazy story out of World War II, where Hitler didn't really die. He actually found a way to escape. They found him in Argentina, and he was trying to raise up a group of followers. And he said to the followers, "This time we're going to rule the world." As well, one of the followers raised his hand. He said, "Look, I'm not trying to be negative here, but you said that last time. What's different?" And he said, "Because this time, none of that night sky stuff." And I'm kidding, but there's a point I'm trying to make here that I've said this from time to time. I think we have the intangibles on our side. I know Lincoln Riley, as you have pointed out, has got a chip on his shoulder. And I know that some of these new defensive coaches have a lot to prove. And I know these kids are sick of the bulletin board stuff that they've been reading. And not trying to say that we have a competitive edge that can take us all the way. You got to have talent. But I fully expect, and I'm saying this to be positive to all the listeners and the USC brethren out there, I fully expect us to handle LSU. I expect we're going to take them down because these guys have a take no prisoners attitude, and it stems from the top. Riley feels that way, and I think all the coaches take their cue from him. And I think they're going to be what was that famous football guy that says, "We're going to come at you like a bunch of crazed dogs"? Well, I think USC is going to do that. And I think we will take down LSU. It will be up to talent ultimately to carry us through the season. But we will start out with the intangibles. And I promise you that I will be on your show after the LSU game. And if we don't win, I'm going to go make myself exposed to whatever ridicule anybody wants to give me. But I am so optimistic because I believe more in the intangibles, at least initially, than I do anything else. And I think we've got them, and I can't wait for the kickoff. So
I think we just won a national championship.
None of that nice guy stuff. That's right. None of that nice guy stuff from USC. We've had it. We are going to go out there and take prisoners. So anyway, I'm just saying that, not that there's a question here. I'm just trying to say something positive to everybody. I can't wait.
I like it. We need more positivity in this Trojan fan base. We are going to kick ass. I'm with you. I'm ready to take the criticism. I'm getting more and more positive. I think it's Gabe from Trojan Blade. It just keeps pumping me up. Gabe thinks we're going to blow the doors off this LSU team. I'm excited. Matt, bring me back down to earth. Come on, bring me before I say something really crazy. Bring me back down to earth.
I won't bring you back down to earth. I'm going to set up something you wrote at Trojans Wire about an LSU Wire report on Blake Baker, at LSU's defensive coordinator. So before I hand it over to Tim, hey Gary, the guy who said, "Let's come at it like a bunch of crazed dogs," that was Lawrence Taylor on an NFL Films sound clip. So there was none other than LT. And hey, Gary, we should have you in that USC locker room in Vegas on September 1st. You giving that pep talk, baby? Like everyone would be ready to just run through a brick wall for you, Gary. So that was a great pep talk. But now let me hand it over to Tim. Tim, tell everyone what you wrote at Trojans Wire, picking up on a report from our colleagues at LSU Wire, and with this game now just about 3 weeks away. Tim?
Yeah, well, they were talking about some 5 concerns that they had, and one that popped off to me and I just got like a shudder, like that. I don't know, that hairs go on the back of your neck, because they were talking about how Blake Baker, the new defensive coordinator, puts a lot on the corners. And now when you have corners that you can trust to put on that island out there, right? If you remember, Mekhi Blackman in 2022, you could pretty much it was a first team all Pac-12 corner. You could really do some things. And I think having him back there along with Thule up front, I think really, it wasn't total luck, all of those turnovers that happened. When you have 2 NFL guys like that are really going to change the defense, right? Get home and then also put some pressure on the quarterback from both directions. It can work, right? But even in that season, with our previous defensive coordinator, you know, it just seemed like there were a lot of chunk plays, right? A lot of explosives, a lot of stuff happening against really not exactly the greatest wide receivers around, you know? So when you have Blake Baker in a system, that what they were questioning, and kind of we were talking about when we had our preview of LSU about a month ago, is the fact that the cornerbacks aren't there. And at Missouri, Baker had 2 stud corners, so it made the defense look really well. Well, their weakness now, it looks like, especially they're putting, can you imagine them putting their corners in man out on the island with the receivers that we have? I'm really looking forward to see what Lemon and Lane and Robinson, you know, all of them. I mean, Fair, all these guys are going to completely, I think, go crazy in that secondary. I really do, Matt. The question mark is going to be what? Like I've been saying, can we protect Miller? And if they can, if they can protect Miller, it's going to be a field day out there in the LSU secondary. I do believe that.
Gary, we have people in the chat saying that you're celebrating a birthday today. Is that true?
Yes, I am. I'm celebrating a birthday. I'm starting to count in reverse now, but I am counting. It is my 79th birthday. So,
wow! Congratulations, Gary. If I had a voice, I would sing for you.
Gary, many happy Zachariah Branch kick returns. Many happy Zachariah Branch kick returns,
one last
Gary.
thing. What's that?
Many happy Zachariah Branch kick returns, Gary.
Oh, there you go. In fact, I have an image of it right now in my head. If I could tell, you know, I used to do a little speaking to high school teams before their games, and but if I could tell USC players one thing, I'd say, listen, you have a chance to go on that field against LSU, and then afterwards you have a chance to walk off that field and give a one-finger salute to all the naysayers. And I would say it's up to you guys. You can silence the world by walking off that field with a complete inundation of LSU. And I think we can do it. But anyway, yeah, thank you for the sentiments of my birthday. And everybody out there, listen, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And believe and have some faith in kids that want to win, and the coaching staff that have to win, and the people around this program that are desperate for a win. So anyway, thank you guys.
Fight on, Gary. Happy birthday, and thanks again for being here. As always, really appreciate your support. Yeah, I mean, Matt, you're gonna get all this pressure coming from all of us about how we're gonna destroy LSU. We're gonna convert you, Matt. I know you have your reservations, but we are gonna convert you.
Well, hey, I'm taking USC plus the 6.5. But
no, I want you taking USC straight up. We'll have you there in a couple of weeks. Don't worry.
But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But hey, I hope USC gives Gary from Dana Point the best birthday present in the world on September 1st. Let me tell you.
The one thing first things first, though, Matt, I'm kind of disappointed that you said that USC would go into the half against Utah State 21 points. Come on. I'm in Utah. Utah State's going to be really bad this year. And going into the half, they'll probably be about 35 points. USC is probably going to come out of that game north of 50 to 60 points. And so that's how bad Utah State's going to be this year. Just to get that cleared up for you. But the one thing I really want to point out with the weight gain for all these players that we have and the builds is we have to remember that they're not just gaining weight, they're gaining weight on a ratio. So Bear last year was 300 pounds, and now he's at 315. Well, the ratio comes in is if he lost 10 pounds of fat, then he actually gained 25 pounds of muscle, not 15 pounds of muscle, if that makes sense for the ratio. And so, but I think this USC team is going to be phenomenal this year. I think they're going to light up LSU, especially with the fact that the DC for them is going to allow USC's receivers to have easy catches, at least to start off the game. And so I think that's going to be a big mistake. And honestly, I think USC will come out of that game with at least 45 points. And I'm not confident in LSU's offense. So I'm thinking they'll be about 21 points. They lost way too much. They lost their quarterback. They lost receivers. They lost their running back. They lost way too much.
They lost their offensive coordinator.
O-line,
they lost Denbrock as well. Yeah, that offense is gutted.
And that was a 3-loss team last year. And to somehow think that they're going to be better this year is just giving them more credit than they should. Kelly is a fantastic coach. He's always done well with teams that he's had. He's had occasional down years because of how much he's lost, but he's always been able to bring his team back to being a good team to really fight for a championship chance. But this year, they're just not going to be that team. I think they'll have about 5 losses this year. So I think they're well overrated. I think the same thing could be similarly said of Michigan's offense. Their defense will be fantastic, but their offense, they lost their quarterback, they lost their receivers, they lost their running back, they were gutted on the talent-wise. They just won't be the same team on offense. And I think Lincoln Riley will be putting at least 28 to 31 points on that Michigan defense. But I could be wrong because they're a great defense and they know how to play against that style of offense that Lincoln Riley plays because of Ryan Day plays a similar offense. And so I have to give credit where credit is due. But even that Ohio State offense put up 24 or so to 30 points on that Michigan defense still. And so I don't see USC just putting up 13 points as Matt is suggesting. He could be right, though. He could just see something that we're not seeing, and you just say, hey, guys, pull back on the reins. We're getting a little too caught up on this.
No, we're not going to let him do that.
Simply right on that.
No, don't stop giving him too much credit. No, we're going to stay we're going pump. He wants me to pump the sunshine, I'll pump it. But no, so it might be there, but I don't know. I mean, I'd have to say, honestly, as much as I'm being a bit facetious, I'm not completely joking when I say that USC could absolutely beat anybody. I mean, I'm looking at LSU, I'm looking at Michigan, I'm looking at Penn State, I'm looking at Notre Dame, I'm looking at those teams, and I'm not looking past the other teams as well. You know, I don't know. We're gonna know. Like I said, I've told a couple people, give me till about maybe 5 to 10 minutes in the third quarter, and I'll tell you who we're gonna beat. Because I'll tell you what, if that right side of the line has gelled, if these young pieces are getting reps and coming in the rotation, you know, and really holding their own against LSU. So we're down talking LSU, but we're still talking about LSU. They're gonna have athletes. If our lines are holding up, I'm telling you, you know, I will know 5 to 10 minutes into that third quarter what we have, because they're gonna try to make some adjustment against us, and if it doesn't work, I'm like, oh shit, I think we really are gonna win the championship. No, sorry, I think we're gonna go to the playoffs. I got to pull back a little bit there.
Okay, two things. One, if we do score 31 on Michigan, we're winning that game. Period. If USC is able to hit 31, USC wins that game. The thing about Utah State and why I think it's going to be, you know, only like a 21-point game, not a 35-point game at halftime, it's the Sunday-Saturday differential, that it's a short week. Remember several years ago, Virginia Tech under Frank Beamer played a Labor Day night game and then lost to James Madison on the subsequent Saturday. You know, that short week early in the season, especially with LSU going to be a draining, exhausting game, I don't think you're going to see USC like hit the afterburners right at the start against Utah State. I think like the first 7-8 minutes of that game are going to be kind of sleepy, groggy, you know, uneven, and then USC will hit it in the second quarter. So I don't think it's going to be like a 70-point game. I think it's probably going to be more like a 40-point game, but it's because of the short week. If that was a normal week with USC playing LSU on Saturday instead of Sunday, yeah, I'd say 35 points at half.
Yep. I'm gonna say that US was so we're doing our superlatives and our prognostications and our rankings. We're doing all that on Monday, right? I sure hope he gives us, a little bit of time. I mean, I'll come in with some stuff, but usually on these shows, people have time to think about what they're going to say. We like to go off the cuff all the time, but
yeah, that's for stats, player stats, and team stats.
All right, maybe next week we should probably do.
Just as a piece of, Just as a piece of further information for Utah State, they lost their head coach. He was fired.
Yeah, I wrote about that.
Not because he was a bad coach, it's because some other things, and so it's going to be a new head coach with his own ideas and everything else, and a lot of things will get lost as far as familiarity will happen as far as that goes. And then they also lost some good, talented players to the transfer portal. So Utah State's going to be down this year. And I think USC's biggest game will probably be Notre Dame just because of how big of a rival that is. And so if I give my opinion, if things go as we hope they do, as far as health-wise, USC will probably be 11-0 going into that game. Everybody else, like you mentioned earlier, Tim, is a lot of some of these other good teams that USC plays, such as Penn State and so forth. They have glaring issues that they have to figure out, and just the same as we did for last year, glaring issues. And so I think that's going to be a benefit USC in that part. It's just we don't know.
Well, to be fair,
but that's all I had.
I know. I really appreciate that, Kyle. But to be fair, they have apparent glaring issues, just like USC. Really, to most people, have some issues they got to work on both of their lines until they show it. I mean, who knows? Like the corners at LSU might come out and just be locked down and like oh crap, here we go. It's going to be a slugfest, right? So I mean, we don't know. We're going off of last year, just like a lot of national people are going way too much off of last year's team and coaching when they start talking about USC this year. But it's fun to do. It's all we have, and I hear you. And by the way, I'll take 10-1 going into that Notre Dame game, because then that means unless we get roughed up a little bit, we'll be going to the playoffs. So we don't have to be 11-0 going that game, but I'll tell you what, it would be nice to be 10-1, knowing for sure we're probably heading to the playoffs.